Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz vibraphonist Chuck Redd. He opened up about his latest 2019 CD called Groove City with a stellar group of musicians playing a variety of deep grooves ranging from hard swinging to bossa nova and even the blues. So he started recording and touring the globe when he joined the Charlie Byrd Trio at the age of 21, a huge learning experience. He also performed in a concert with Dizzy Gillespie's Quintet in Africa for a celebration and a recital at the White House with the great Barney Kessel Trio. And he also was in 4 concerts at Carnegie Hall with Mel Torme and his quintet, and he appeared on The Tonight Show. This guy's been all over the place. He's been on 25 European tours and 6 tours of Japan. He's an award-winning cat, and these days he's busier than ever and full of stories. So please dig this interview.
Okay, Chuck, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Great to be with you, Joe.
So let's start off here with Groove City, another great album you've put out. And I want to know, what was the artistic vision with this project?
I kind of talked about this in my liner notes. I wanted to make an album with a kind of a gritty urban feel, for lack of a better way to describe it, and also a recording that kind of encompassed a lot of the different grooves and rhythms that I'm comfortable playing and that I've been involved with through the years. So there's some straight ahead swing, there's some bossa nova, there's a little funk, there's some samba, and also I think the nature of the compositions range from kind of a very straight-ahead standard like All or Nothing at All and a Billy Strayhorn classic, Flowers of Love Something, to a couple of Monty Alexander tunes, which have a sophisticated but very accessible harmonic structure that kind of reflects maybe an eclectic kind of feeling, you know, as far as the genre and the feeling.
Talk to me a little bit about your childhood. Where were you born and raised, and how did you get into the jazz realm?
So I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area in Silver Spring, Maryland. My parents were both big music fans. Neither of them played music professionally. My father was an amateur saxophonist in school, but he worked at Voice of America as an engineer for many years, was in radio all of his life. And he just loved swing, big band, bossa nova, novelty recordings, all kinds of interesting music. And so there was music playing around the house all the time when we were growing up. They had been friends with some musicians. My mother and father had been. And so my brother Robert and myself kind of fell into it naturally. Music was always associated with fun and excitement and joy. And when we started getting serious about it, our parents encouraged us. So it kind of happened very naturally. It just felt like I honestly cannot ever remember a time where I didn't want to play music and where jazz wasn't part of it. It was, even though I took some forays into the, kind of the pop music world when I was in high school, listening to that kind of music and everything, of course, but jazz was always there. I was listening to swing music when I was a kid, and then I got into Buddy Rich and then Max Roach and Clifford Brown, and then a teacher played a Milt Jackson recording for me when I was in high school, and that changed my life. I heard the vibes and in that context, and I said I just had to play the vibraphone. So that's kind of how it happened. And then I got a big break when I was 21 to go on the road with Charlie Byrd. That's when my career kind of started to take off.
Why do you love the vibes? What's so beautiful about the vibes to you?
It's hard to describe. I think it goes back to that recording of Milt Jackson. Even though I don't try to play like him consciously, I probably did at one point. It was the feeling that he was able to draw from the instrument. And in retrospect, I have to say, I think because the vibraphone it's inherently a cold instrument because it's metal and you strike it with a mallet, unlike, caressing a string on a guitar or breathing into a wind instrument. It's difficult to be expressive on the vibraphone unless you really, really want to and you really feel it. And I felt that coming from Milt Jackson. I think he was perhaps the most expressive vibraphonist ever. There have certainly been other exciting vibraphonists and virtuosic vibraphonists, and we all know who they are, Lionel Hampton and Gary Burton and Red Norvo. But Milt had a way of, even drawing the blues out of the vibes, and I think that's what grabbed me, just that just really moved me in a deep way. And so that's what I try to do. I try to just express a song, or some composition, or the blues, or a bebop tune through the vibes. And it's just kind of part of the soundtrack of my life. It's almost hard to describe, but that's the best I can do, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt. So at such a young age, being with Charlie Byrd had to be huge. What did you learn from him?
I learned a great deal about professionalism and consistency of performance. He rarely, if ever, had an off night. If he was troubled by anything, or if he was feeling less than confident, he never showed it. He turned that switch on as soon as we got on stage, whether it was in a small club, in a small town, way out of the way, maybe in Alaska or wherever, or whether it was on stage at Carnegie Hall. He was on, and he was consistent, and he was charming, and he was a gentleman. I thought, when I worked with him, I thought perhaps everyone I'll work with will be exactly like that, and that's not really true, even though I've had the great fortune of working with many wonderful musicians and great people. For the most part, that's how it's been. But Charlie was an exceptional person because he was an even-keeled person, and I feel like I've been like that. Yeah, I learned a lot from him, and also from Barney Kessel and Herb Ellis about the bandstand being almost sacred. When you go up there, you can be humorous and bring the audience in with your patter and whatever, but you have to take the music very seriously. And I think that also it feeds you as a musician as well. So I learned a lot from Charlie.
As you mentioned, you play with a lot of big names in the world of jazz. You've been all over the world. Is it always, to this day, still a thrill to get on stage? Is there always that adrenaline and that desire to get something new out there?
Absolutely. And I'm still learning. I just turned 60 last September. I don't feel it, and I hope I don't act it. My wife would probably tell you I don't act my age. But seriously, I love it every single time, and it is very exciting. In fact, I had a wonderful experience just 2 days ago. I played in Norfolk, Virginia at Old Dominion University with the great Houston Person, and we played at the university, and the audience was comprised of many students there, young students, and they loved it. And we were just up there swinging. We were doing Houston's thing, which is just right down the middle, playing standards, ballads, shuffles, just, toe tapping, 4/4 swing. And these kids loved it because they could feel that we were breathing a sense of importance into it. And we were excited and having fun. And I'm convinced that will always communicate if it's done right. And jazz music never has to live in the past. It's something it's in the moment. It's right now. It's personal, even though the history can be part of your playing. You can make it very contemporary, right? Anytime you perform. So yes, I get excited every time I go up to play.
So are you happy with where your career is right now?
Very happy. This may be the busiest year I've ever had in my life. I've got many exciting things. Of course, the new recording, Groove City, and it's doing quite well, and I'm getting great reviews and even selling them, in this day and age where CD players are becoming a thing of the past. They're selling online, and my wife is helping me sell them, and And in case you don't have a CD player for your listeners out there, I'll be happy to sell you a CD player as well. So, no, I'm kidding. But seriously, it's yes, and you can download it, of course. But the CD's doing great. My schedule is completely booked until the end of the year, and actually up until around late February of next year. It's kind of everything is just full. I've had to turn down some really exciting gigs because of that. I got a call to play with John Pizzarelli at Birdland, and I had to turn that down, which is a shame. But it's because I'm musical director for a festival in Oregon, the Oregon Festival of American Music. Just all kinds of great things. I've got a gig with Monty Alexander coming up at his festival, which is on Labor Day weekend. So yes, everything is going great. Everything's going great, and I'm really happy as to where things are right now.
You know, you've performed with a lot of people that a lot of jazz fans would love to have seen at some point in their lives, like Dizzy Gillespie. But my question to you is, what was one of the first jazz shows you ever witnessed that really inspired you?
It was probably seeing the Count Basie band when I was in high school. And once again, so I have so much appreciation for my father, Kay Red. You know, it was just so wonderful that he exposed Robert and me to this kind of thing. But he took us to see the Buddy Rich band. He took us to see the Count Basie band when we were in high school, or maybe even a little younger, and that was incredible. And I remember Sonny Payne, the great drummer, was back with the Count Basie band. He had left in the early 70s, I believe, maybe even late 60s, but he came back with the band for a short period. So he was there and throwing his sticks up in the air and spinning his sticks around, but still never missing a beat. And that was exciting. My eyes were on him. Then I saw the Buddy Rich band, also maybe even the same year they came through, and that was extremely exciting because I was seeing Buddy Rich on television, on the Johnny Carson show and whatever. But so those two performances changed my life. And then the first time I saw Milt Jackson, he was playing with the Monty Alexander Trio with John Clayton on bass and this hotshot young drummer named Jeff Hamilton, who has become a great friend. I couldn't figure out who to watch, Jeff or Milt, So I was just knocked out with that, and I spoke to Milt a little bit, but it was like taking 1,000 vibes lessons, just sitting there and watching Milt when he played a club here. He actually played in my hometown of Silver Spring, Maryland. So those were amazing life-changing experiences to see those kind of people up close.
Right on. Why do you love jazz?
Well, I associate it with joy and love and happiness, and it just I have a visceral reaction to the rhythm and to the harmonies. It's really something that's been with me my whole life, and if not to get too grandiose, but I think it's with all of us. If you grew up in the U.S., I think even if you grew up listening to R&B, gospel, maybe even country music, but definitely any of the mainstream pop music, it's in there. The swing beat is it's all in there someplace. And sometimes it's kind of very obvious, and sometimes it's kind of buried in there, but that feeling is in a lot of popular music in the United States, and I think it's in our blood as people. When I play in Europe and I play in Japan and other places, it's amazing how supportive they are of jazz music and how well you get paid when you go there. But I'm not sure the feeling is the same. I'm not sure if they react as viscerally, but it's in us. So, even in hip-hop music, you feel a little like jazz beat, and it's in most Western music. It's in reggae. It's in everything. So I can't help but love it. I really can't help but love it. It's part of me. One of the other life-changing experiences was when I played 2 concerts with Ray Brown and Monty Alexander and Herb Ellis, and Herb was like an uncle to me, and Monty became a great friend, and and Ray was really nice to me. But when I was about 27 years old, I played with those guys, and that was like taking a ride on a magic carpet as far as the groove and swinging and feeling the depth of what jazz can be. Again, back to that visceral feeling of swinging. And that was an amazing feeling. And I remember, to paraphrase Barney Kessel, if you've ever felt that before, why wouldn't you want to feel it all the time? And that's kind of how I feel. It's a very special thing, and it's worth many hours of therapy to be able to play jazz and to feel jazz. It's like it feeds your soul.
My final question to you is this. Everyone has an interpretation or a version of who they think you are. Your family, your friends, your fans, but you know yourself best. So tell me, who do you think you are?
How much time do we have? No. Well, I think I'm someone who had a little bit of talent and worked very hard because I really, really loved this thing, all these things we're talking about, making music, playing jazz. And I think that passion is sometimes more important than, whatever, huge talent that certain people have. I think the passion drives you to get up every day and practice and work and grow and learn. And I'm still doing that all the time. Every single day I practice if I'm home or if if I can access my instrument. So I feel like I'm at this point I have something to say musically. I don't think I'm an innovator, but I don't think most people are innovators. I think I'm someone who was formed from all the music I've heard and listened to, and the person that I am. I try to be kind to people and try to bring a little bit of joy into people's lives when I play, and I think that's what we're all trying to do as musicians. Yeah, that's kind of it. I feel like it's very important to remain humble and to keep learning, and that keeps you going.
Wonderful. That's a great answer. Great way to wrap everything up. Chuck, thank you for the music. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Washington, D.C., Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Chuck for his class, his music, and his time. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.